I've been working with whistleblowers inside Texas Children's Hospital to expose the hospital's child sex change program. Here's the basic background. Last year, executives at the hospital promised that they would stop all such procedures, but I've obtained medical records indicating that they restarted the program just 3 days later, and they've been providing puberty blockers and other sex change hormones to children ranging in age from 11 to 17 years old. The doctors at Texas Children's call this gender-affirming care, but this is a deeply misleading euphemism. One doctor inside the clinic says that it is a, quote, house of horrors, that these procedures are lining up kids for permanent medicalization and doing irreversible damage. So let's break down exactly how this works. It's a process of psychological, physiological, and metaphysical manipulation. First, let's look at the psychological manipulation that is really the entry point into so-called gender-affirming care, or really more accurately, the child sex change program. It starts with these doctors who present themselves as authorities, pressuring and even bullying parents to agree with the presuppositions of radical gender theory and then place their kids along the pipeline for so-called gender-affirming care. I'd like to share a clip from Dr. Patrick O'Malley, a psychiatrist who identifies with they/them pronouns, who is really that starting point at Texas Children's, bringing kids into the program and then lining them up for medicalization.
So later the mother asked me, what about my parental rights, my rights as a parent? Really asking me, can you call my child their preferred name and pronouns? Okay. So, and I had a student with me, and I said, ma'am, you do have many parental rights, but I have to adhere to my own ethical standards as a physician. And I know the best thing to do for this child, their mental health, and really even the risk of suicide is to show them that respect of using the pronouns they go by, using the name they go by. And I'm often kind of working with families in the sense that, I'm not here to kind of question your entire worldview or belief system, but to work with you as a consultant. I can tell you both from experience and from the research, your child is less likely to both attempt and die by suicide if we use a supportive terminology with them and an open mind. And they're much less likely to have morbidity from anxiety, depression, and a number of other psychiatric issues if we use this affirming model.
This is textbook emotional blackmail. He's telling parents that if they don't affirm the principles of radical gender theory, if they don't use, for example, they/them pronouns, if they don't call their children by their preferred name, meaning the name of the opposite sex of their birth, that they're going to be leading these kids to suicide. This is not supported in the medical literature. There's really very weak evidence to support this argument, but it's not about rationally justifying these procedures. It's about emotionally manipulating parents, forcing them to accept the first step because they know once you accept steps 1, 2, and 3, you're going to be lining your kid up for puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgical interventions, and making your child a lifetime ward of the medical industrial complex and really a soldier in the gender identity army. In another clip, Dr. O'Malley talks about how he has children come out to him privately as non-binary and then goes to the waiting room to explain to the parents that your child has now identified with this pseudo-sexual identity. This is a red flag psychological manipulation. Any parent that has half their wits about them would sense a danger from this kind of behavior inside the clinic room. The second part of the process is physiological manipulation. So you go from the realm of emotions, conversation, discussion, names and pronouns into the realm of medical intervention. And the medical records that I've obtained from Texas Children's Hospital indicate that they're starting children on puberty blockers beginning at age 11. They're surgically implanting the drug Supralin LA into the arms of these kids, and then they're slowly dripping this puberty-blocking drug for approximately 12 months. This is not merely, as many doctors say, a pause on puberty that's totally reversible. In fact, it can do deep and significant physiological damage to the child. But the literature also indicates that approximately 95% of patients who begin puberty blockers move on to the next step, which is cross-sex hormones, estrogen or testosterone, depending on if it's a male to female or female to male transition. And 50% of patients that are female, meaning their natal birth is female, continue on to surgeries such as top surgery or phalloplasty. And according to a whistleblower that I've spoken to inside Texas Children's, they're starting children on these puberty blocker prescriptions sometimes after a single visit. So they're starting the program of physiological manipulation very young and continuing these kids on the path into the future. And finally, the most significant form of manipulation is metaphysical. What is the ultimate objective of all of these psychological and medical interventions? It's to actually negate the very basic nature of reality itself, that there are men and women. One source inside Texas Children says that these doctors are motivated by social status. That is, they want to be seen as cutting edge. They want to be seen as the forefront of medicine. They want to be seen as the ultimate arbiters of compassion, healing these so-called transgender children. But another whistleblower I talked to said that this all stems from these doctors' desires to, quote, play God. And so what they're trying to do is take that basic fabric of reality. There are men and women. This has been the basic unit of reality, of human reproduction, of human sexual culture since the beginning of time. And yet they want to negate it. They want to say that we can choose to be neither male nor female. That is, we can choose to be non-binary, or that we can choose to be a sex other than the sex that we were given at birth. And so we have, in a sense, the desire to write over everything from the book of Genesis onward, or if you're more secular and scientifically minded, to erase the dimorphic nature of our species itself. The problem, though, is that nature has a way of reasserting itself. The whistleblower that I talked to, who has worked closely with these patients, says that while they may be externally happy for a time with puberty blockers, hormones, mastectomy surgeries, this person can sense that they're deeply unhappy internally. It hasn't actually solved their problems such as depression, anxiety, family trouble, relationship trouble, erotic rejection in their private lives. And so what's happening is that these manipulations compound over time and then deal really catastrophic consequences to these children. Let's be clear, these whistleblowers are coming forward, even anonymously, at grave risk to their careers, at grave risk to their status, at grave risk to their financial well-being, because they believe that these children will wake up in 10 years. They're going to be permanently, surgically, and chemically mutilated. They're going to be really destroyed or ruined, and nobody is looking out for them. There's a culture of fear at Texas Children's Hospital. You're not supposed to contravene or contradict the principles of radical gender theory. You're just supposed to blindly applaud predominantly these young women who are being put on these very significant pharmaceutical interventions and then lined up for surgery. And I think in time what we'll see is a practical reaction. More whistleblowers will come forward. Lawsuits will get filed. Even the Attorney General of Texas, after my whistleblower story, has announced an official investigation into Texas Children's. And so we're going to see in the coming weeks and months exactly what Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton will find based on the whistleblower reporting and based on his subpoena power looking into the medical records at Texas Children's. And we'll see also the reaction from the legislature. The legislators in the Texas House and Senate have passed versions of a bill that would outlaw child sex change procedures. This will be going to Governor Abbott's desk shortly. I think that he'll sign it. But the fight is not won here. It's up to all of us to keep fighting, to keep talking about this, and to keep really rallying to the truth about the very nature of reality and caring for these kids that have been thrown into the maw of the medical system and into the grasp of this harmful and poisonous ideology.